Good morning. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday morning. Welcome back to the Ancient Rome studio. This is the Portal Podcast with Bob Colbert. I'm your host, Bob Colbert. Just a little bookkeeping. Please join us at 10 o'clock on the Table Talk podcast. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl. I'm really excited, ready to watch that game tomorrow. And of course, we got an additive T4. We've got Taylor Swift making her presence known. So I'm sure that'll be an event there as well. So, anywho, I think Rush, is that his name, is playing the halftime. Not sure. But anywho, so today we're going to be talking about episode 14 of 20 of the Roman Forum series. So last week we talked about the Basilica Aemilia and had that discussion. That was episode 13. If you need to review that, go back and review that. Today we're going to be talking about the Basilica Julia, which was the opposite in direction, on the opposite side of the Basilica Aemilia. Had a very similar structure from the Basilica Aemilia. So if you find it kind of look the same, you're right. So anyway, so let's go ahead and bring a picture up what's remaining. So this is all that remains of the Basilica Julia, or Giulia in the Italian. And so really it's just flooring and some foundational stones, a column, a corner. So that's about it. So yeah, not much there. So if you want to see what it looked like in its heyday, so very similar to Aemilia, Basilica Aemilia. Remember, it was on the opposite side of Basilica Julia. So yeah, very similar in structure. And I'll show a map. Go ahead and show the map. So this is the Colosseum on the lower right-hand corner, and these are the two roads that bound the Roman Forum area, the Via Sacra on the left, and the Via del Fori Imperelli on the right, on the opposite side there. So, excuse me, let me get me some coffee. McDonald's. I haven't yet gone back and paid $7.38 for a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. So I'm tempted because I like it, but I can't. I just can't do it. So I may do a sausage biscuit. But I love their coffee. They got some good coffee. All righty, so yeah, so that's it on kind of in the Roman Forum where it's located, and on the opposite side is the Basilica Aemilia. So yeah, so let's go ahead before the reading and review the video. We'll review it twice, one for the initial view and one for reinforcement on the end of the podcast. So let's go ahead and go to the video, and I'll see you on the other side.
The Basilica Julia, in Italian Basilica Giulia, was a structure that once stood in the Roman Forum. It was a large, ornate public building used for meetings and other official business during the early Roman Empire. Its ruins have been excavated. What is left from its classical period are mostly foundations, floors, and a small back corner wall with a few arches that are part of both the original building and later imperial reconstructions, and a single column from its first building phase. The Basilica Julia was built on the site of the earlier Basilica Sempronia in 170 BC, along the south side of the Forum, opposite the Basilica Aemilia. It was initially dedicated in 46 BC by Julius Caesar, with building costs paid from the spoils of the Gallic War, and was completed by Augustus, who named the building after his...
All righty, so let's do a little reading. Let me get everything over here. All right, we'll talk a little history here. So the Basilica Julia, in Italian Basilica Giulia, was a structure that once stood in the Roman Forum. It was a large, ornate public building used for meetings and other official business during the Roman Empire. Its ruins have been excavated. What's left from its classical period are mostly just foundations and flooring, a small back corner wall with a few arches that are part of both the original building and latter imperial reconstructions, and a single column from its first building phase. The Basilica Julia was built on the site of the earlier Basilica Sempronia in 170 BC along the south side of the Forum, opposite the Basilica Aemilia. It was initially dedicated in 46 BC by Julius Caesar, with building costs paid from the spoils of the Gallic War, and was completed by his adopted son Augustus, who named the building after his adopted father. The ruins, which have been excavated, date to a reconstruction of the basilica by the Emperor Diocletian after a fire in 283 AD that destroyed the earlier structure. And a little history and use of it. The first iteration of the Basilica Julia was begun around 54 BC by Julius Caesar, though it was left to his heir, Augustus, to complete the construction and name it in honor of his adopted father. The basilica was built over the remains of two important Republican structures, the Basilica Sempronia, which was demolished by Caesar to make way for the new basilica, and predating both the house of Scipio Africanus, Rome's legendary general. The Basilica Sempronia was built in 169 BC by Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus and required the demolition of the house of Africanus and a number of shops to make room for it. The first Basilica Julia burned in a fire in 9 AD, shortly after its completion. But it was reconstructed, enlarged, and rededicated to Augustus' adoptive sons Gaius and Lucius in 12 AD. The basilica was restored after a fire in 199 AD by Septimius Severus, later reconstructed by Emperor Diocletian after another fire in 283 AD. Man, a lot of fires. I think they need some fire extinguisher. Oh, they haven't been invented yet. The basilica is bordered on its short sides by two important ancient roads which led from the Tiber to the Forum, or Tiber. The Vicus Jugurthus to the west and the Vicus Tuscus to the east. The ground floor was divided into 5 east-west aisles inside, with the central aisle forming a hall that measured 82 by 18 meters, sheltered by a 3-story high roof. The adjoining aisles to the north and south of the central hall were divided by marble-faced brick columns which supported concrete arcades. The columns in turn supported the upper level of the basilica, which was used as a public gallery. The floor of the central hall was paved in colorful polychrome marble slabs, contrasting with the plain white marble of the adjoining aisles. The basilica's facade, as it appeared after the Augustan restoration, was 2 stories high and arcaded with engaged Carrara marble columns decorating the piers, uh, between the piers between the arches on both levels. The basilica housed the civil law courts and tabernae shops and provided space for government offices and banking. In the first century, it also was used for sessions of the Court of the Hundred, or centumvir, who presided over matters of inheritance. In his epistles, Pliny the Younger describes the scene as he pleaded for a senatorial lady whose 80-year-old father had disinherited her 10 days after taking a new wife. Suetonius states that Caligula greatly enjoyed showering the crowd in the forum below with money while standing on the roof of the Basilica Julia. It was the favorite meeting place of the Roman people. The basilica housed public meeting places and shops, but it was mainly used as a court of law. On the pavement of the portico, there are diagrams of games that were scratched into the white marble. One stone on the upper tier of the side facing the curia is marked with an 8x8 square grid on which games similar to chess or checkers had been played. The last recorded restoration of the Basilica Julia was undertaken by the urban prefect Gabinus Vitidius Probianus in 16 AD, who also relocated several Greek statues by the sculptors Polycalius and Timarchus for display near the center of the facade. The inscribed bases of these statues recording the restoration still survive. All right, I think that's enough. So I'll cover a little bit about Julius Caesar. Now, I think this is before they started calling their rulers emperors. So he was his office or his title was dictator. So let me pull that image up. Sorry, there you go. This is on the picture that you're seeing is the Tusculum portrait, possibly the only surviving sculpture of Julius Caesar. It was made during his lifetime. It's in the Museum of Antiquities in Turin, Italy. And Julius Caesar, he was born July 100 BC in Suburra, Rome. He died 15 March 44 BC at age 55 at the Theater Pompey, Rome. The cause of death was, of course, assassination through stab wounds. His occupations were politician, soldier, author. His notable works was Bellum Gallicum and Bellum Civile. His office was Pontifex Maximus from 6444 BC, consul 59 BC, proconsul Gaul and Illyricum in 5849 BC, dictator 49 to 44 BC, and consul 48 and 46 to 44 BC, and dictator Perpetio in 44 BC. He had several spouses and, I guess, concubines. Most notably Cassidia, which is disputed, and Cornelia. They were married in 84 BC, died or divorced maybe, I guess, 69 BC in Pompeia. That Pompeo was his other wife. They were married 67 BC, divorced in 61 BC. I guess Cornelia passed away, her death, 69 BC, because it's kind of got div. I assume that's divorced. Yeah, death. Sorry. Uh, and then Calpurnia married in 59 BC. His partner was Cleopatra. His children were Julius Caesarion, which was unacknowledged, and Augustus, his adoptive son. His parents were Gaius Julius Caesar and Aurelia, awards, civic crown. His allegiance was to Roman Republic. He was in the Roman army, served in the Roman army. His years of service were 81 to 45 BC. His commands were the 13th Legion. The battles and wars he participated in were the siege of Mytilene, Gallic Wars, the invasions of Britain, Caesar's Civil War, and the Alexandrian War. Okay, so there's a little bit of history, and of course we know him as having been assassinated. Yeah, so all right. Well, we'll go back and look at the video again, all right, and catch you on the other side. This is just a review.
The Basilica Julia, in Italian, Basilica Giulia, was a structure that once stood in the Roman Forum. It was a large, ornate public building used for meetings and other official business during the early Roman Empire. Its ruins have been excavated. What is left from its classical period are mostly foundations, floors, and a small back corner wall with a few arches that are part of both the original building and later imperial reconstructions, and a single column from its first building phase. The Basilica Julia was built on the site of the earlier Basilica Sempronia in 170 BC, along the south side of the Forum, opposite the Basilica Aemilia. It was initially dedicated in 46 BC by Julius Caesar, with building costs paid from the spoils of the Gallic War, and was completed by Augustus, who named the building after his...
All righty. Let me see if I can show what the building looked like. One moment. Okay. There we go. And let me get rid of... There we go. So this is very similar to the Basilica Aemilia, almost identical, looks like. So it really comprised 3 floors, and if you remember, it said, I forget who it was that would stand up here. Was it Caligula? I think he said. Caligula, emperor, would throw money down to the people down here. So anywho, yeah, so that is very similar. If you want to kind of look at what that looked like inside from the Sketchfab model, you can review episode 13 and see the inside of that. So, all right. So today we review the Basilica Julia, in Italian Giulia. So it was during the Julius Caesar time in office before his assassination. Augustus, his adopted son, picked it up, rededicated it back to his adoptive father, and made some additional reconstructions, over time. All righty. So please join us at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the Table Talk podcast. We're discussing the Super Bowl, which will be tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. We got some food appropriate for a ball game. I got my beer, so I'm all set to sit there and watch the game. I prefer a close game, so instead of a blowout or stuff. But so I'm looking forward to that. All righty, so that's all I have for today's podcast on the Portal Podcast. So I hope wherever you are, everyone, I do appreciate the fans making the comments. I also will shout out to Joyce Mason in Gunnersville, Alabama. It's my biggest fan. So actually, Georgia Mountain. Sorry, she'll be mad at me probably. But wherever you are on planet Earth, hope you have a great Saturday. And we'll see you next week on the Portal Podcast. We'll discuss episode 15. This is 15 of a 20-part series. I'm starting plans to figure out what I am going to cover the next series. So join us back next Saturday. Y'all take care. Bye.
What you do, you into me, but I can't let it go so easily until I see what